Hello everyone, I am Shubham, Secretary of CPPR,
And I'm Ankit, the treasurer of CPPR.
and we are part of CPPR at Accelerate, which is Accelerate's Public Policy Committee. Today, we are thrilled to introduce Mr. Rahul Pachori, sir, who is Director of the Department of School and Education and Literary at Ministry of Education, Government of India. Currently, he is working in the office of Hon'ble Minister of State for Education Shri Jayant Chaudhary and looking after the work of his PS for Education Department. He is a distinguished officer from the Indian Engineering Services with a career spanning impactful roles in both education and railway sectors. He has previously served as Chief Vigilance Officer at National Council for Teacher Education (NCTE) and led projects such as STARS initiative and the establishment of National Assessment Center Parak. Prior to his work in education, he headed electric loco workshop at West Central Railway, managing a team of over 1,000 people and handling cutting-edge innovations in locomotive technology. His contributions have earned him several prestigious awards, including the Minister of Railways Award for commissioning 80 locomotives without additional manpower and the Best Suggestion Scheme Prize for his innovative work on electric locomotives. He is also pursuing a PhD in management and boasts a rich academic background, making him an authoritative voice in public policy and educational reforms. Welcome to the first episode of Policy Podcast, sir.
Thank you, Shivam. Thank you for having me, and thanks for the generous introduction. Thank you. Thanks, Ankit.
So, may we begin with the questions?
Please, please, please. It's my pleasure.
So, the first question which we wanted to ask was, since you have worked in the STARS project, please tell us something about the STARS project. What is this about? What are the key challenges in implementing STAR projects, and how did you navigate through them?
Okay, so just to give you a background, education, as you all may know, is a concurrent subject. So it falls within the state domain as well as the central domain. So although center has a role of making policies, but most of the work falls in the prerogative of status. So states basically have most of the schools under their jurisdiction. So we have a concept called centrally sponsored scheme. In a centrally sponsored scheme, there is a certain fund sharing agreement between the center and the state. So the scheme is run by the center, and 60% fund is given by the center, and 40% matching fund is given by the state. This varies from state to state and for union territories also. In some cases, there may be a share of 90-10, there may be a share of 100 to 0. So basically, STARS is a centrally sponsored scheme. Now, if you might know, there is a centrally sponsored scheme called Samagra Shiksha. So Samagra Shiksha is the primary scheme which the government of India runs to facilitate all these state governments for school education ranging from pre-primary to 12th standard, which we called K-12 in technical parlance. So that scheme is primarily aimed at school education, but most of the chunk of that scheme, the funds from that scheme, go into the regular activities which we call the recurring activities which are operational in nature, which have to be done, like salaries of teachers or salaries of other manpower, or maybe provision of uniform, textbooks, similarly. So then another scheme was brought in called STARS. STARS is essentially strengthening teaching, learning, and results in various states. So it is a World Bank funded scheme. It is aided by the World Bank. So there are many externally aided projects in which we take loan from a multilateral funding agency. It may be World Bank, it may be Asian Development Bank, it may be some other agency. So this is essentially funded by the World Bank. So the central share that Government of India offers to the states is a loan that has been given by the World Bank. It's a $500 million loan. It roughly comes out to around, at the time of the inception of the project, it was 3,700 crores. It has slightly appreciated and gone up to 4,100 crores. And the matching state share is given by the corresponding states. There are 6 states falling in this scheme. Himachal Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Kerala, Rajasthan, and Maharashtra. So now the question arises, why only 6 states? So see, the chunk of money is less. And the idea was to, try out some specific interventions in 6 states It could have been 4, it could have been 8. It is just a decision reached at because of multiple factors, like, okay, which states are inclined to take up the project. They are inclined to take up the project in a quick mode, and which states have agreed for the matching state shares. Plus, there are other states which will come in other externally funded projects. So that is the primary reason. And based on that, these 6 states were chosen. Apart from that, there were other aspects also. We have a performance grading index, then the geographical locations, like the government wants to spread out the project also so that it covers pan-India reflections. And then this project was carved out. So the primary difference which this scheme brings in vis-a-vis the other schemes that Government of India runs is, this is a project which is funded on an instrument called P for R, Program for Results. So essentially, when you achieve something, you get the proportional amount of disbursement of loan. So it's, I mean, if in very layman terms, if I have to explain it, let us understand that if you are building a house and you want loan, so maybe 1 crore of rupees has been allotted to you to build the house, but the tranches will be dispersed as and when you are able to accomplish some activities. So similarly, in this case, the tranches are released to Government of India only when states are able to achieve some activities.
Okay.
For example, if they are able to train a certain number of teachers, then a proportionate amount is released. So this is how the scheme is different from the regular scheme. Plus, it brings in an element of external technical expertise of the World Bank, because World Bank being the global partner, it has a lot of ties in various countries. It has a lot of educational specialists. So they also bring in their expertise of how we can achieve more with a limited amount of money. Plus, what are the new things available or new interventions available globally which can be implemented in India and maybe scaled up at other levels also.
Okay. Sir, so like, is it stars is like a milestone kind of scheme where you achieve certain
It is more or less something in which there are milestones, and once you achieve those milestones, further amount is available for the usage.
Right, right. Sir, so like, since there are 6 states involved, and then we have a help from World Bank. So like, I would like to get into this World Bank angle of the scheme, like how World Bank is able to help us. And then again, there is also sometimes a debate that institutions like World Bank or IMF, they might have their own set of things how they operate, and India is having a very different background, very different diversities are there. So how are we able to take help from them and navigate through those things?
Okay, yeah, that is a very pertinent question. And see, the basic understanding of the project is with World Bank as well as the government. So both are very clear as to how the project was supposed to be designed. So while the designing of the project was also being done, the states were consulted. And not just the states, but other experts were also involved. So the project is not designed purely by the World Bank. It has been designed, the milestones have been designed based on discussions. So the milestones are not something which are too easy to be achieved or too tough. I mean, it's a 5-year project. So assuming 5 years are there and you're able to achieve only the target of 1 year, so the project doesn't make sense. And if you're able to achieve all the targets in 3 years, then also the project doesn't make sense. So the design of the project was done like this. Now your question as to what happens when you bring in a global player, and then you have to take into consideration the Indian conditions. So see, the P for R instrument gives you a lot of flexibility. It doesn't bind you by the World Bank regulations. So inherently, the intervention that has to be done by the state is approved by the central government. World Bank has no say in that. But the World Bank can bring in their experts, give us suggestions, and then we are free to pick and choose which intervention we want to implement and which we want to skip. So that is why the global expertise is being brought to the table, served, but it is not a compulsion to, have that particular ingredient or have that particular option compulsorily. So that is the flexibility which we have, and we have passed on that same flexibility to the states also.
Right. Great, sir. Like, then again, something more we wanted to know about, like, what are the implementation challenges STAR has faced over the years, and you being involved in that, how did you navigate through them? What, like, different state might have different challenges, different set of challenges. So, how did you
Yeah,
navigate through
in
them?
fact, yeah, that is something which we are still navigating. The project is still going on. It ends next year, and we are trying to get a 2-year extension on the project.
Mm.
See, there are multiple level of challenges when such projects are there, because number one, there is a lot of paperwork involved,
Right.
and understand this. The states have a lot less manpower when it comes to on the ground working. So any new project that is brought in, it is the same set of manpower which is given an additional burden. Now I'm using the word burden, which might not be very accurate, but for them it is actually a burden, because now you have another set of compliances, now you have another set of regulations which you need to follow, and it is the same number of people who are looking after Samagra Shiksha, who are looking after other schemes of education, and they are also involved in this one. So it becomes a little tough. So what we did was, in all the states, we allowed them to hire a project management unit. We allowed them to hire a separate set of people exclusively for stars. They may be 3, 4, depending on what the state feels the requirement is. And we also allowed them to hire some special experts for different kind of subjects. For example, early childhood care or assessment. So that was one thing. The other was the funding mechanism. So if you, I'm not sure if you would have heard this term or not, there is a term called PFMS. It's essentially a public fund management system. So once you go through your series of interviews in public policy, this term is going to come up recurrently, because this is a system that has been devised by the government of India so as to ensure transfer of payment from one point to another seamlessly and cashlessly. So, for example, if I have to transfer X amount from the Reserve Bank of India to the state government, I will just key in my credentials, I'll key in the amount, I'll key in the sanction. It goes to RBI then generates the amount and sends it to State Bank. It's all a cashless, internet-based transaction. Now, what happened is, based on, this PFMS was already operational, but when this project got into the real stride, we got in a new system of something which is called a single nodal account. I'll tell you in very layman terms what it is. So it essentially means that every state will have a separate account for a separate scheme. And below that account, assuming there is one mother account, all the child accounts will not have any balance. So assuming the mother account has 100 rupees and there are 5 child accounts, and account number 1 wants a transaction of 20 rupees, the 20 rupees should not flow to that account. You key in a transaction of 20 rupees for a vendor, that amount goes straight to the vendor. So it's a zero balance account, always. So what happens is, there is no parking of funds, because otherwise you can put this 100 rupees 20 20 20 in each child account, and the mother account will show as zero. So what we would feel at the central level is, there's no amount lying there, and we can release further amount, but actually the amount is being parked. So that was a very new system which was brought in by Government of India, Ministry of Finance. So this was implemented in stars for the first time. So
Wow.
because of this, the scheme couldn't take off very quickly. But then we pushed all the state governments to implement it, and implement it timely, and which the state governments did. So this was one of the challenges, and the most, and you can guess it, another challenge was COVID, because this was launched in February 21, and because of COVID, in the second wave, most of the schools were closed. So we lost 1 financial year completely without any activity. But then that is why we are seeking an extension of 2 years. So hopefully we'll be able to cover that up. That shouldn't be a problem. Now the states have gotten the pace right.
Yeah. Let's see, sir. We'll also follow up on this, how it turns out to be, and we'll keep updated ourselves. Sir, moving on to our next questions. We read about Parak initiative. You worked on Parak initiative. So we wanted to know what is this Parak initiative? How will it impact assessments in India and the role of data and technology in the Parak initiative implementation?
Okay, so see, Parak flows out of stars only. So when
Okay.
stars was devised, there is also one of the milestones which is setting up of an institution called Parak. And Parak, the idea of Parak came from the National Education Policy 2020, which says that there will be a national assessment center, and Parak is that national assessment center. So Parak is an acronym. It is like performance assessment results and knowledge analysis at a holistic level. We have these acronyms in Government of India, and don't be bogged down by them. They are just there to showcase a few things, nothing much.
Right, sir.
But yeah, jokes apart. So it's a national assessment center, and the idea behind Parak was, okay, from which state did you study?
Sir, I studied in, I did my UG in West Bengal,
No, not UG. You're schooling.
Uttar Pradesh,
Uttar Pradesh. You are from UP board or CBSE?
CBSE board.
CBSE board, and I'm sure you would have friends from UP board.
Yes, sir.
So in UP board, if you are having 75% or 80%, it is more or less equivalent to 95% in CBSE.
Correct, sir.
I hope I'm correct in assuming
Sir,
that.
at that point of time, there was some disparity, but yes, it was a general consensus.
That disparity is still there. I mean, not acknowledging that would be hypocrisy. And Ankit, which state did you study from?
Sir, I've studied from Assam, sir.
Assam, and which board?
Sir, CBSE board.
CBSE board. And how was the difference between Assam board and CBSE board?
Sir, so till the fifth standard, I was in the Assam board, and there was a difference in the timeline. So the Assam board started in Jan and ended in December, and CBSE, as we all know,
CBSE
ends in
starts at
March,
April and
April.
ends in March. Yes.
Yeah.
But
And
apart from
when
that, in the assessment,
when it comes to the assessment, sir, you are right about that. The SEBA board was actually very stringent in giving marks to the students, and the cutoffs were very low in SEBA.
so see, this is a problem which almost everyone has faced in multiple states. I mean, I belong to Madhya Pradesh, and I know CBSE versus MP board. Again, this problem was always there. So the idea behind bringing in a national assessment center was equivalency of boards. For example, what if we have an entity which is able to define how the boards should be equivalent, not only in terms of marks, but in terms of the process of assessment also. You'll be surprised to know that once Parak was established and we started having a dialogue with multiple boards, multiple state boards, we got to know that there are some boards in which the concept of sets of paper is still not there. हमारे एग्जाम में सेट होता था ना, सेट ए, सेट बी, सेट सी, ताकि हम लोग चीटिंग नहीं कर पाए. So there are still boards in which there is no concept of sets. So if we are talking about equivalency of marks, it should basically ebb out of the equivalency of assessment. If you are assessing differently, you can never get similar marking styles. So Parak is a basically standard setting body which will set the standards of assessment, which will showcase to different kinds of boards how to assess, what to assess, and once you're assessing, what is the outcome, how the marks should come, what is competency-based assessment. So see, a national education policy focuses on that the assessment should be competency-based. It should not be rote learning-based. You're not supposed to just mug up things and come out and just vomit on the paper and you get marks. But the idea is that the assessment should judge the competency level of the student. Okay, I'll give you a very small example. I hope both of you are maths students.
Right.
So, board maths padha hoga sabne. Now, assuming I gave a question to 3 people, 6 into 3 plus 1. So the answer is 19. 6 3s are 18. 18 plus 1, 19.
Right.
Suppose there is an objective kind of an examination and you have 4 choices. One is 19, the other is 20, 24 and none. So 6 into 3, 18 plus 1, 19, that is one option. That is the correct option. Now, if a student makes a calculation error, 6 into 3, 18 plus 1, 20, he may go for an option B. Supposing there is another student who has not understood the concept of board mass and he does 3 plus 1, 4 into 6, 24. He goes for the option C. Now, should the 3 students be marked at the same level? See, first student has given the correct answer. He gets full marks, no doubt. But should the other 2 students be marked at a similar level? दोनों को 0 देने. See, one person has understood the concept. He just did a calculation error. The third person has not understood the concept at all. So the 2 people have to be assessed differently so that in future we are able to correct them accordingly. अब हमें सेकंड बच्चे को बोर्ड मास नहीं सिखाना, हमें सिर्फ उसको ये बोलना यार एक बार अपना आंसर रिवाइज कर दिया करो. और थर्ड बच्चे को we have to teach him board mass again. We have to clear the concept. Have you seen the movie Newton?
Yes, sir, I've seen it. Rajkumar Rao's
उसमें
movie.
Rajkumar Rao's movie, उसमें there is this one dialogue in which he says के प्लस से पहले डिवीजन आता है. बोर्ड मास भूल गए आप.
Right.
नियम
Sir, I
नियम
remember
करते
that.
रहते और बेसिक नियम भूल गए. So
Right.
that judgment has to be brought into our assessment practices, and that is what we are seeking Parak to do. I'm sure you would have heard about TOEFL, GMAT, GRE, and many of you would have given also. So ETS is the organization that prepares and conducts all these examinations. So Parak, to establish Parak, we have onboarded ETS, and ETS is helping us set up Parak. So they have brought in their expertise, but trying to implement it on a scale and then train our people so that once ETS is out of the system, we have people who can take things forward.
Oh, interesting.
Sir, your Bodma story reminds me of a thing my physics teacher used to say. He used to say, "Bhavnaon ko samjho." So,
yeah, true.
So the second student, I guess, understood the bhavnas, but he made an error in calculation. Also, sir, one pushback regarding that, sir. I would say that assessment is a very integral part of the differences in the state boards and the central board. So, sir, if you are standardizing the assessment per se, why not have the same board and eliminate the state board?
Okay, so see, there is this problem that CBSE. Okay, so there are 2 problems for this. One, we will go for the rules and regulations. So if we look at the rules and regulations, see, CBSE has a very stringent set of rules. Not every school will fall into that domain. And if they are not able to fall in that domain, we can't lower the regulations to bring in all the schools, number one. But let us just leave it apart and come to the second issue. See, India is a nation of varied contexts, varied languages, numerous other activities. So there is a very important point of regionalization, regional context. See, these board bring in the regional context. There is a very, okay, now many of you might be preparing for UPSC or your friends would be preparing. Do you know what people consider tough, UPSC or state civil services or state PCS? Most of the people, if they are appearing for a different state, the state services are much, much tougher than UPSC because they are very focused on state. They have a regional context, and that is vital because those people are supposed to work only in that state. And similarly, what happens is when you are focusing on a state board, these regional concepts come in, and you can't eliminate them on one shot. So the curriculum changes. It's not just the assessment part, but what you are teaching is also different. And that difference has to be kept alive. It cannot be, subsumed suddenly. So it will take a lot of time for the osmosis or the reverse osmosis to, fuse the two parts. So first start with the assessment practice so that at least people coming from different states are able to at least compare. Like we brought in CUET, what was the major purpose? That after studying in different boards, you go give an examination which helps you gain entrance into various universities. But if you are
Right.
able to bring in the assessment at a common platform, such examinations would hopefully become redundant, if not definitely redundant, hopefully become redundant. And even if there are examinations, at least the assessment process will improve throughout the boards.
Yeah, sir, this sets up very nicely for the third question we have planned. Sir, so where do you see the Indian education policy head in the next decades, now that given that government has introduced the new education policy? And the second part is what steps are being taken to make it more inclusive to people from the remote areas? Like I mentioned, I'm from Assam. I would say that Northeast has currently lagged behind in the education sector. So how do you plan to, democratize education to all parts of the country?
See, I mean, it's very easy to say that Northeast lags behind, but in many indicators, I'm sure if you go and take a look, Northeast doesn't really lag too behind. Having said that, it's definitely very difficult to compare a place like Taksing in Arunachal Pradesh, which is at the Indo-China border, where even roads are still not accessible, yet there are schools, and a place like maybe a place in Gujarat, Maharashtra, or Madhya Pradesh. It is really difficult. So, see, NEP 2020 is a very inclusive policy. It has multiple touch points. The primary aim is to improve our gross enrollment ratio. That is, every child who's supposed to be in school should be in school by 2030. That is the primary aim. Now, when we focus that, okay, children should be brought to school. So now two aspects come into picture. One is access, that everyone has access. You are able to go to a school. And second is quality. So what we are teaching and what the student is learning. Now, over the years, the access has improved. I mean, if we talk about elementary education, we almost have a gross enrollment ratio near about 100, almost. But if we talk about quality, the quality has to improve still a lot. So now when you said rural ke liye kya kar rahe, it's not just about rural. I mean, some places the rural results are better than urban results if you compare. But rural does not mean a village in Madhya Pradesh, and rural does not mean a village in Assam. Rural also means a village in South India. Now, within a state, there are districts in which there might be some places which have been left behind. For example, I'll give you a case of Madhya Pradesh. So in Madhya Pradesh, there is a district called Alirajpur. Now, the speciality of Alirajpur is it is a tribal belt, but it has a very different topography. So there are hills, there are flats, there are inclines, there are slopes. So what happens is traveling from one point to another becomes difficult for students. So in this case, if the student doesn't come to the school for one day, he might not miss out just that day, he might not come for the week only. So what do? Either we give him a transportation or we give him a residential school. कि बेटा आओ, यहीं रहो, यहीं पढ़ो, यहीं चलते रहो. Now take this problem and go to Andaman. In Andaman, there are 3 districts, Andaman and Nicobar. So student from one district doesn't want to move to the other district. Why? Because they are 2 different islands. And the parents think, नहीं मेरा बेटा मेरा बच्चा तो यही रहेगा, 8th तक पढ़ लिया कोई बात नहीं, secondary school नहीं, वो वहां नहीं जाएगा. Now what do I do? Even if I offer transportation, I cannot give them daily transportation. I have to take him from one district to the other, let him stay there in a residential hostel and continue his studies. So see, these are problems in which you cannot provide a cookie cutter solution. You give me the problem, you bring in a solution. So various solutions have to be brought in. And that is what NEP talks about. It brings in the regional concept. It brings in contextualization. It also focuses on open schooling. It also focuses on skilling, vocational education. So, okay, if you are not able to continue in the regular school, you at least skill yourself so that you are ready for the job market. Even at higher education, it brings in the option of multiple entry, multiple exit. For example, if if you're doing a course of 4 years, you want to exit at the end of third year, you go ahead, you can come back later, finish the fourth year course.
Right,
So
sir.
these are the multiple options that the government has brought in, and it will take some time to settle in, because it is such a forward looking policy that not everything can be done in a year or two.
Correct, right, sir. So those are some very interesting examples we have heard. I mean, we should just compile it somewhere for further use. And moving on to sir, next question. So we want to know something about the governance of school education system and railways in India, since you have seen both working. So we would like to know how they are governed in India, and like schooling and transportation in a vast country like India has its own set of challenges. So what challenges did you face in both, and how are both the fields similar and different, and what learnings could be used in similarly in both the fields? So something like that.
I'm not sure really how to answer this one, but the first thing that comes to my mind is the manpower. So Indian Railways is the biggest employer in not just India, I'm sure world over it is one of the biggest employers. Almost 13 lakh employees it has. So the only thing that comes nearby, apart from defense, is the number of teachers that we have. So we have
Right,
96
sir.
lakh teachers in India,
Hmm.
but the employer is not same. That is the only point. So in both the cases, we are talking about managing huge manpower. And I mean, I'm sure you must be going through HR courses. Managing human resource is one of the toughest aspects, hands down.
Right,
So
sir.
that is a problem, yes, because in India, many of the teachers are not qualified. There is a dearth of teachers who are, I won't use the term only qualified, but qualified and dedicated in the government, because we are looking for more and more. See, if you find n number of teachers who are very good, you would still want them to become e to the power n. Why? Because that is the number of students that we have. So we need the number of teachers to grow exponentially. Good teachers, quality teachers. And when we talk about railways, the sheer mammoth of passengers and cargo that railway deals, that is another beast. So both the cases are very different, but the scales that they operate are, you know, out of this world. So the scales are too high, too big. Having
Right, sir.
said that, see, you always bring in learnings from one field to another. That is something that cannot be done away with. So what I feel is, when I was in railways, I learned one of the most important lessons of life is that people are your most important asset. If you let people innovate, if you let people um, try new things, you'll get solutions which you can never imagine. And similarly, in the field of education, also, you'll find teachers who can bring in solutions that no one can ever imagine. I'll tell you a very small instance. There's this village in Rajasthan. I'm missing out on the name, but there was this one teacher in the government school, and he told me this fascinating story. And in fact, I saw this with my own eyes, so I can corroborate his story. That he started teaching the whole class with his own particular laptop. It was, I think, 3 or 4 years back. So he started with his own laptop, and he used to bring that laptop to the class, show it to the students, and show them some videos or presentation or whatever it was. So the class was going really well. The class used to love his particular sessions. And he wanted a projector for the class. And somehow the fund was not getting sanctioned, and he was not able to get the projector. So there were this couple from a French NGO who had come to the village, and they were seeing various things. And the tour operator, or the licensing person for this couple, he was a friend of this teacher. So he brought them to this school, and they asked them, "Hey, aap ja karke dekhiye and just see those classes." And that French couple said, hey, you are teaching with this laptop. Do you think the last person can see? He said, no, he cannot see it. Then only why you are teaching with this laptop? He said, I don't have any other option. At least some people are able to see it. And then I also allow them to come after the class, take a look and go back. I said, why don't you get a projector? He said, I've been trying, I've not been able to. So what they did is they said, give us a specification. We'll go back, order a projector from our pocket, send it to you. And he still has that projector, and you have those two French names written underneath. And he's using it in the class. And he got a specification saying, I should get a projector which can also be connected through a mobile, not necessarily a laptop, so that other teachers may also be able to use it. So, I mean, people, they are just too good sometimes, beyond your imagination. And these things cannot be compensated by, the salary a government employee gets. You may give them awards for recognition and motivation, but I think these type of dedicated people are beyond all these things. And there are numerous examples in government sector, whether it comes to education or whether it comes to railways.
Right. So that's a very interesting take. I mean, yes, there are very good people in the systems which are driving for change. So, sir, moving on to the next question, what we have is, since you have worked in railways very closely, so how is Indian Railway playing a pivotal role for inclusion of remote places of India and mainstreaming them, and how is it refueling the Indian economy? And also something with respect to the technological advancements that railway has seen over the years. So if you can put a light on that.
Okay, so see, I won't go into very specific details here because I'm not aware of the recent exact projects. But I'll tell you a couple of good stories, which I hope you and the people listening to this may find it interesting. So I was in the railways when the first wave of COVID hit, and I was posted in Tughlakabad then, and in whole of Delhi, there were 4 workshops which were operating. So Tughlakabad had 2 workshops. One was diesel, one was electric. Then there was an electric workshop in Ghaziabad. There was another diesel workshop in one of the other places. I'm not able to recollect the exact name. But that had closed down. I mean, the employees were not working. Then Ghaziabad closed down because there were a lot of COVID cases in Ghaziabad. Then diesel shed Tughlakabad closed down. So we were the only one remaining. And we were operating now for the load of 4 workshops. And we had to supply locomotives continuously because although passenger trains were not working, all the goods trains were operational. And the most important cargo that was supposed to be transported was milk. Plus, we had to transport cloth, which would be converted into the suits, the COVID protection suits for doctors. Apart from this, there were numerous other things which had to be transported from one point to another, which we would, just try and ensure that, okay, it goes through somehow. So when you talk about connecting the remote places, Indian Railways is the lifeline of the country. It becomes so tough to connect Dibrugarh to Kanyakumari. Dibrugarh is the last point in northeast and Kanyakumari down south. But Railways is still doing it. And even when nothing functions, Railways still has to function. Even if it is rains, even if there is fog, the speed might go down, but Railways will continue to work. I mean, an airplane cannot take off if it's raining too heavily, but Railways has to work. So that was a time which I really felt that it's not just about transporting passengers or cargo, but it is exactly what you said, connecting the last mile, the last location that is possible. And you asked about technological advancements. So see, there are numerous technological advancements that we have. I mean, I'm sure you have seen the Vande Bharat multiple modes. There is this 12,000 horsepower locomotive that we have. I'll tell you a very different instance from all these, which is not there for the normal people to understand or see. But if you ever have been on stations, you would see the once you deboard the train, if it is the end point, the train is taken to another location where it is washed, cleaned, repaired, whatever it is done. So there are different types of locomotives which pull and push the train, the empty rakes. So we had this small innovation in which we converted one of the electrical locomotives into a battery operated locomotive, so as to save energy and use old condemned locomotives, convert them into a battery operated locomotive and save energy for all these shunting purposes. And you'll be surprised that every hour that a locomotive does not work on diesel or electricity and goes to battery, there's a saving of lakhs and lakhs of rupees. So these might be small incremental changes, but they have a macro impact on the overall functioning of railways.
Right, sir. So that really sets some context. Sir, there are few things I wanted to ask with respect to railways only. So regarding railways, we have read about green corridors which are being set up. So if you can tell us about green corridors a bit, if what is it, how are they impacting us? And then regarding the sustainability part, like you said that we are saving the things, I mean, solar energy, etc., is being used. So how is railway able to do that? If you can tell us something about that.
Okay, so see, the thing is, with regard to sustainability, railways has a lot of land. So when there is a lot of land, there is a possibility of using a lot of solar panels. Now, there's this place in Madhya Pradesh called Bina. So just next to the Bina station, there was a lot of empty land. So we placed so many solar panels there so that all the workshops nearby can be powered on that particular solar panel itself. Now, this is just one example, but every workshop of railways is now incorporating multiple aspects to improve the consumption of energy, or not just improve, reduce the consumption of energy. Number one. Number two, become self-sustaining. So you might have seen all these stations have numerous solar panels, workshops have numerous solar panels. We have replaced all the lights by LED lightings. There is a 70-30% of lighting concept. If you are ever there on any station, try to take a look. When the train is not there, only 30% of the lightings are operational. And when the train is about to enter the station, 70% remaining lights are also switched on. So it is all an electronic circuit which helps save electricity. So these are, I mean, these are some of the aspects. Then we have brought in biotoilets, in which the waste is turned into compost. It doesn't go on the track. So these are the only these are some of the interventions which I can recollect at this point regarding the sustainability. And see, railways is such a huge organization that the number of interventions are too many to recollect. And if you just go to one workshop and try to take a look at how much consumption is being done and how much savings are being done, that itself is a case study.
Yes, sir. Okay, so you were saying something.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to actually thank you for actually reminding us how railways are the lifeline of India. So people like me, because I know I've done it a couple of times, we like to criticize the Indian Railway too much for being late, for being sometimes unsatisfactory. But thank you, sir, for reminding us that however it is the Indian Rail, and it does employ and enhance a lot of things that India does. With that, I would like to come to the last question, and perhaps the question that is most relevant and most weighted by people here at Excel, and also students from the MBA universe altogether. So what advice would you give the MBA students who are going to join various fields in the upcoming years?
What advice would I give? Okay, so that is really tough. I am not sure I have a set of rules or advice, but I'll try to tell you what I've learned over the years, and I'll try to keep it very simple because that is what I've understood. Uh, See, you were very correct in pointing out that we often criticize railways and we often criticize all the government functionary. Understand one point: most of you will be working with them. Most of you. I mean, see, whoever joins consultancy firms, all the big fours or BCG or you name McKinsey, they are all working with the government. Because first you don't want to join the government, you join the consultancy firms, and then all you want is a government project. Why? Because the scale at which the government operates. It's a different ballgame altogether. So understand that, see, criticizing any one industry or organization won't help you. It will only lead to aspects which are not very good for you only. Try to understand what is there on the other side. That is one. Second is keep yourself updated. Because the more updated you are, you'll understand the different opportunities that are there in the system. So try to keep yourself updated, try to keep yourself unbiased, and just work hard. Because especially MBA graduates now in the field of public policy, they are very low in numbers. It's a rare commodity. I mean, if we go by supply and demand, there's a lot of demand and there's lesser supply. You have a lot of people from marketing, operations, HR, finance, but public policy is something which is still not taken up so much, especially in India. And there are a lot of options available now. You get to work with government, you get to be inducted in the government, you get to work in various consultancy firms, you get to work in various startups. Like, you see, Facebook has a public policy division, IKEA has a public policy division, you Google has a public policy division, Swiggy has a public policy division. You name a firm, you name an organization, chances are it has a new public policy division. So when you are learning any subject, try to grasp what implications it has on various stakeholders. That is the policy that you need to work on. And just try to enjoy your work, try to enjoy your studies. I mean, it was not too far when I was at the juncture which you are, and don't take life too seriously. You just feel that okay, अगर मेरा इसमें नहीं हुआ, मेरा selection या campus नहीं हुआ, तो जीवन खत्म है, ये नहीं हुआ वो. It doesn't work that way. 6, 7, 8 years, you're all almost on the same platform. The only difference you might have that, I couldn't do this, somebody else did this. It more or less boils down to the same level. Life is a great leveler. Don't take it too seriously. Just try to enjoy yourself and do have a hobby. Do have a
Yes.
hobby. Try to, do whatever you like, because that is something which will help you when things are not going your way.
Thank
That is all the gyan I have, yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really insightful discussion, insightful information we got. It was a very much learning experience for all of us, and I'm sure whoever will be watching this episode, they'll get to learn a lot about education infrastructure and railways, etc. It was very insightful for all of us, and we look forward to apply all those learnings in our life and get ahead. And definitely we are having some hobbies, and we'll maybe enjoy more on hobbies now, less stressed about how things are turned out to be. So thank you very much, sir, for giving us so much time, and it was really great talking to you.
Danny, the pleasure is all mine here. Thank you. This is your first podcast in the series, and I am so privileged to be here. And I wish
So
you
sir,
all
we are privileged, so thank you very much.
the honor is still mine here. I just hope that you have a great beginning and the series takes you places.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ankit. Thank you, Shubham. All the best to you. All the best.